Hi, my love. Welcome to your weekly forecast for the week of March 30th to April 6th, 2025. This week brings us out of eclipse season and into April, a very new month. Astrologically, April brings a lot less disruption and much more forward movement than March, and that movement starts this week with some clarifying alignments between Venus, Mercury, and the North Node. So let's get into the highlights of the week. On Tuesday, Venus conjoins the North Node in Pisces, and we can feel moved to take some decisive action to choose what it is we want and claim it for ourselves. The North Node represents the future and karmic destiny, but also hunger and ambition. And Venus is our desires, ideals, and values. So their alignment can push us to get moving in some new, even more ideal or authentic direction. It can spur our assertiveness. And at this point, Venus has just completed the first half of her retrograde, so she's now a morning star, meaning that she's a more passionate, assertive Venus. And she's also exalted in Pisces. And so Venus is doing better than she has been pretty much all year. Even though Venus is still retrograde until April 12th, we are moving forward in a more constructive direction around Venusian themes: money, love, and friendships. So on Tuesday, check in with the Venusian parts of your life and just consider what updates you might feel called to make now in these areas and how you can really act on them. Now on Friday, Mars trines Saturn and Mercury retrograde will conjoin the North Node. So Mars trining Saturn is like a plan comes together. Saturn represents the boundaries of our life, and Mars is like the power or energy that helps us to move forward and execute our plans. So this harmonious aspect between them can mean new plans or systems work. Things work. So it could be a pretty productive day on Friday where the steps that we actually take to move forward actually take. Also on Friday, Mercury conjoins the North Node in Pisces. So while plans are coming together and things are working on some level, there could also be a sense that there's still some really big questions that need answers. Mercury on the North Node can feel a little overwhelming, or can feel like there's a part of us that needs to figure out the how of things, or it's like this need that we can't really satisfy around the how. So on Friday, we want to not go down any rabbit holes or spin our wheels too much trying to figure out answers that we can't possibly have. And we want to stay focused on what it is we can control, because Mars trine Saturn can really help us to take effective action on what it is we intentionally set out to do. So that's what we want to do. We want to stay focused and grounded on Friday. And on Sunday, Venus retrograde trines Mars, and we end the week with this really nice boost of energy. Sunday is supportive for actively creating more harmonious dynamics in our relationships and also within ourselves. So after all the work that we've done throughout Venus retrograde and throughout Mars retrograde, we can finally start to see some rewards here at the end of the week. We understand now more about what it is we really want, and we understand more about how and where our energy is best spent. And by Sunday, we could feel pretty clear on those key learnings, and we could feel maybe even pretty good about where we're at and how we're moving forward into Q2. Now next week, Mercury and Venus turn direct, Venus conjoins Saturn, and we have a full moon in Libra. Now let's pull some tarot cards for the week of March 30th to April 6th and get some guidance for moving into the final hours of March and into April. starting into a new month, really at the start of a new lunar cycle, because we're just coming into this week pretty much on day 2 or 3 of a new lunar cycle right after the solar eclipse in Aries on the 29th. So we might feel new as we enter April. So we have the King of Pentacles, we have the Sun, and we have the Four of Pentacles. And on the root of the deck, we have the Devil. So here you are in the final hours of March, or whenever you're listening to this, here you are on the other side of something. The Sun. The Sun is this moment of this dawning, this moment of clarity, this realization around like where we're really at in life. The Sun is like the dawn. It's like the end of the dark night. We are on the other side of a journey that maybe felt like a roller coaster. Certainly March was an active month of high highs and low lows with eclipse season and Mercury and Venus retrograde. The Sun says something is complete. And can you just allow yourself a brief moment of pause to maybe feel the sun on your face and acknowledge, how good it feels to be here, having learned what you've learned and moved through all that you have moved through. We want to really acknowledge ourselves this week. How often do we move through challenging things and get nervous and push ourselves into things, and then we just go on to the next thing right after that? Pause and acknowledge how much you actually moved through in March. Chances are it was a lot. And it's made us even stronger in our boundaries and our values. The King of Pentacles reflects that. The King of Pentacles affirms our solidness in ourselves and in our wisdom, and reminds us that we do know how to build things that stand the test of time. There's some expertise that's highlighted here. So we don't need to change things so much. The King of Pentacles affirms our tried and true ways of doing things. You know what works for you, and you know what doesn't work for you. And so you don't need to come into April, come into Q2 and be like, I don't even know who I am. I'm going to just have to start all over again. That's not the case here. Don't underestimate the journey that you've been on and like how much you have built within yourself. Like you have built a strong you, and you will never have to go back to square one in like a totally starting from scratch way. We have every reason to be, confident in what we know this week. And the Four of Pentacles shows this kind of boundaried, conservative approach as we're coming into April. So while we don't want to be, limiting ourselves, certainly with the Devil coming up here, we want to remember that there's a whole lot more that we can create here, and we don't want to limit ourselves. Like, we are unlimited beings with infinite capacity to create, but we also want to be really discerning about our energy and think about, like, what do we really want to, at this point, spend our energy on? What do we really want to spend our energy on? What is worth it and what is not? Choose like the king this week. Choose like the king. So now that I'm thinking about it, this is very tax season energy. But know that this is one moment in your life. It's one moment in this season of your life, and it will change. But this week, make choices like the king and know that you are the king. There is nothing that could change that. There's nothing that could change that. What are you choosing this week? What are you choosing to be a yes for? And what are you choosing to be a no for? What are you available for? And what are you not available for? Just choose. Bring your conscious awareness to your choice. Because your choice matters. Your knowing what you want and what you don't want really matters. So the last card that we pulled here is the Eight of Wands. So when I see this card, it makes me think about like organization and boundaries and how we are actively inviting energy into our life and how we're organizing it, kind of thing. So I really feel like Mars is now direct, and Venus is still retrograde for a little bit of time, but she's more than halfway through her retrograde. And I think at this point in our 2025 journey, we have an understanding of maybe the new boundaries, that the new commitments, the new structures that 2025 is really going to help us build and put in place to invite in what it is we want in each area of our life. And keep the door closed on what it is we don't want to invite into our life. It all starts with our choice. Even the biggest manifestation starts with a simple choice and acknowledgement. So what are you a yes for this week? And what are you a no for? Thank you for listening to your weekly forecast, my love. That is what I have for you this week, and I will talk to you next week.